back, and I have to make a little change. We have Leanne Smiley here with Home Health, not Pam Sutton as I indicated before. But Leanne, I want to welcome you to the program because you have a very important aspect of resident life, if you will, here at Green Spring. And this is Home Health, and specifically you are involved in...
I work with the therapists and the nurses who would go into someone's apartment and provide services within that apartment.
Okay, I mentioned that you're with Home Health and you are a speech therapist. Let's look into your background a little bit.
I'm actually a registered nurse. However, in my role as the manager for the department, I supervise not just the nursing members of our team, but also the therapy members of our team. And that team consists of PTs, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists. And that's the program that we're really working on at the moment to make it a more robust program.
Okay, you're a registered nurse and you're in Home Health. How many different aspects of health are there involved in Home Health? There's speech therapy and what else?
So we have a very diverse program, and it's based on what a resident needs at the time of coming out of the hospital or coming out of Garden Ridge, or even just the doctor calling us and saying they need help. So we can send just nursing in, especially if someone has wounds or some teaching needs about their medications. But then we're also able to send physical therapy in if it's an issue with someone walking, occupational therapy if someone needs help sort of modifying their apartment to meet their changing needs. So they may need some bathroom modifications or some kitchen changes. And our staff are able to do those recommendations. And then our speech therapists also can go in and work with someone on the various aspects of speech, because you know, people think of speech therapy and they think about talking, but there are so many aspects of speech therapy that most people are not aware of.
Yeah, I'm probably one of them.
So, you know, when we think about speech therapy, we think about, am I talking properly? Am I understanding what is being spoken to me? And that is a major part of their role. But the other part of their role can be helping someone to swallow. So someone has some swallowing difficulties, they can go in and look at, do they need thickened liquids? Do they need their food prepared a different way so that they can remain living independently without having some complications of their health? They also work with people with dementia and work with people to create strategies so that they can remain independent, you know, while they're able to as well.
Leanne, you are a registered nurse, as you indicated. Where did you get your training?
I originally trained in Australia many years ago under social medicine, and in Australia it's all public. So again, my training was very varied. I was at a major trauma hospital, and so definitely got to see all aspects of life in my early years as a nurse.
I'm sure you have.
And then I went on to community health, and community health has led to home health over the years. But I truly enjoy practicing within the community rather than in the hospital setting.
We sometimes learn of youngsters having an LD problem, learning disability. Does the LD program, or does LD go on into a person's life at 80, 85?
It does. You know, we're finding through research that, you know, people diagnosed in their teens and in their childhood years do have an ongoing need as life goes on. So someone, for instance, we hear a lot about children with attention deficit disorder. We have a lot of adults with attention deficit disorder, so it doesn't necessarily go away when they reach 18.
How do you detect that?
There's various ways. You know, obviously in childhood it's diagnosed by a paediatrician, but in adulthood it can be someone who's terribly disorganised, can't get to their appointments on time, always seems to be doing multiple things and never truly finishing everything.
Would it be something like me talking to you and then directing my attention to somewhere else Is that it?
That multi-focus, that not being able to focus on one thing that you're doing at that moment in time. And again, that becomes an issue as we get older, because as we get older, those type of behaviours can worsen, especially as we become forgetful and we have, some medical issues that come on board as well.
There may not be a cure, but is there any way in which a person can be, I'll use the word, straightened out?
Straightened out's a wonderful word, because I think it tells exactly what our occupational therapy and our speech therapy team does. They may not be able to resolve all the issues, but they can definitely help to create what we call compensatory mechanisms, and those mechanisms help people to be able to go on with their daily life. So it might involve putting a calendar together and making sure that someone's writing everything on a calendar. It may be looking at programs like our intermissions program that provides some activity within the community. So there's a whole lot of ways that our team can work with someone while they are still homebound, because again, to be certified home health, someone must be considered at home, but can work with them on achieving what their goals are. And our program really works on those patient goals. To help with that, we have always had a wonderful speech therapist, Pam Smith, but we recently added a gentleman, James Brinton, to our staff, and James now spends a whole lot of time with our staff, especially in a training mode, so that everybody understands what the abilities of speech therapy can be.
Okay, we can't get into every program, but let's just talk about speech therapy. If I have a deficit, how would you try to correct that?
Okay. So what would happen initially when we get the referral and a physician would order it, we would go in and our speech therapist would do an assessment, and that assessment is looking at mechanisms of swallow, mechanisms of cognitive, which is the way our brain works, and would put together a plan based on what they and the physician agree to that would involve regular visits. It may be twice a week for a couple of weeks to help on getting, if it's a swallow issue, again, helping with that modification of food and diet. If it's a cognitive issue, putting together some of those programs like using calendars, using social groups, maybe working on how do I get my pills and make sure my pills are right, because we know again that that's a major reason for people going to the hospital is that they can't remember when to take their medications and things. So our speech therapist can definitely work on setting up something in the home that will help with those type of activities.
It sounds to me as if you and your office personnel work with different factions here at Green Spring. You work with the doctors. I'm sure you work with community resources in some way or another.
We do. We have very close relationships with our social work team, with our physicians, and also with the other groups within ancillary health and resident life. We work very closely with home support in making sure that people have that help when we're not there. But again, it is a team effort, and without the team, we can't get a person to where they're able to function at their very best.
Do you have enough personnel on your staff to do all these things? I'm sure you do.
We constantly adjust and look at our staffing to make sure that we can do that. At this point in time, we have staffed to be able to have therapy come in and have nursing to come in. And that is our goal, is always to make sure that we're there when people need us. And again, it may only be for a couple of weeks at a time, but that's important for those couple of weeks that we can assist.
Earlier, you mentioned that you have a new pickup, James
Brinton.
Brinton. And there was some other name that you mentioned who was also on board.
Pamela Smith. And so Pamela's been with us for quite a number of years, and she was helping, to get our program going. With the addition of James, we can definitely look at beefing it up and doing more than what we've done in the past. So it's an exciting time for us when we look at speech therapy.
So I want to get in touch with you. First of all, I'd like to come down and visit you. Where are you located?
We are located in Village Square on the terrace level. So as you head past the Resident Life office, there is an elevator a little down the hallway. If you take that down to the terrace level and then follow the signs around to the home health office, we can be found. Our office is open from 8:30 to 5 every day, and by all means, people can call us if they have a question or whether they think they might need help, or again, their physicians and care team can do that as well.
Yesterday, I was honored to utter a few words at a service, and I thought to myself when I was up at the rostrum, I want to speak clearly and slowly, and I understand from the remarks that I did. What I'm getting at is, this is part of speech therapy.
That's more of the wellness aspect of therapy. We focus, because of Medicare, on the unwell aspects of speech therapy.
Okay.
But, there's plenty of opportunities here at Greenspring, I know, for people who want to improve their public speaking abilities. There's opportunities, as you do here on Channel 6, to work on some of that as well. So, we're definitely there to support those wellness activities, but our focus remains on making sure that the residents that truly need us are getting the care that they need.
You just brought up a very important aspect of your tenure downstairs, and that is Medicare. What does really Medicare cover? Let's just stay with speech therapy for, I know you have others, but this speech therapy.
So if someone needs speech therapy, Medicare will cover 100% of the costs if the person is unable to leave home and has physicians who would agree to cover that care and be part of our care team. So the doctor would need to provide orders. If someone's not able to be at home, or they're not homebound, as we call it, our outpatient therapy group also has speech therapy, and someone can go across there. So when we discharge someone because they no longer meet our criteria, we often refer to outpatient therapy so that they can continue on.
But I detected this, what we discussed before. You consult with a doctor.
We definitely consult with a doctor. The doctor is an important part of our care team, and in fact, nothing that we do in home health can be done without a physician order. So we spend a lot of time back and forth with doctors so that they get to know us, they know what we're doing, and we keep them in touch constantly.
Well, Leanne, you've been just full of good facts this morning, and I appreciate your coming on and spending time with us and from your very important job.
I enjoy being here, so thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'd like to have some